Hi friends on YouTube, today we're going to watch some riffs together. I'm going to give some feedback and then make some changes to the riffs. So let's begin. So this is the first one, let's listen to it first. Okay, the first one, I think it sounds a bit empty because it just has one chord and then a melody, another cycle, one chord and then a bunch of melody. And then here we have, so it's in the key of A. So start with the 4 chord, I guess. Then yeah. Okay. And then another cycle is the same chord. Yeah, so if you can change the chord to maybe start with 4. Oh, sorry. And then 6 maybe. And then so it sounds more developed instead of just playing the same chord. So the next one we have is this one. Okay, I think it sounds pretty good, but the first one I think it's in the key of A, so a 1 and then 5 and then 6 and then 4, right? The first thing is that he's holding the chord like that, and then the melody is what? So when he have to hold the chord like this, so he has no finger left to do something else. So for me, I'll change to the chord to the open bass, and then instead of using a triad, maybe I will add more notes to it, more extension to make it sound more interesting. For example, so add 9 maybe, and then next chord is 5, so he's playing something like okay. Also, instead of holding a chord like that, I will use the open string and then make some notes to the open string so it's easier to play and also more texture. And then what's next? Okay, so some tapping here and then the same thing, and then he changed to the 4 chord, but the movement travel this far is gonna be like a bit sloppy. Yeah, so instead of going, you can just play the 4 chord right here, right? It's easier, or even open string, and then the melody one. Yeah, the same thing. You can do it like yeah, like something like that, and then yeah, and also the same thing is that every time he just play a chord and then a melody and a chord, a melody, so it's like very flat. So if he can insert more rhythm into the riff, it's gonna sound more interesting. Let's move on to the next one. So we have the best song ever. It's a guitar tap. So best song ever here. So let's listen to it first. Okay, so I guess we are all familiar with this song. It's okay to submit this one, but what's not okay is that he even got it wrong, because you can see it's red. That means the rhythm is wrong. So it should be like this. Oh, sorry. So because he's trolling, so I'm not gonna make change to it. Instead, I'm just going to show one of my old clips. So I'm actually using the same song. So same melody, but just adding some chord and then collabing with this guy. So next one. Okay, here is the next one. Let's see. Okay, I guess it's repeated from here, and then we have two empty bar here. Okay, I think this one sounds really good, because after listening to once, I can already memorize the melody. Da, 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 da. So it means it's a good one, because the hook is good. And then let's see how he plays it. Oh, sorry. So he played all the melody on the same line. I think that's cool because it serves some purpose. All the notes, they are connected to each other, but it's kind of difficult to play it because you have to make it ring for really long. And start with 4 chord, and then next chord. Okay, and then we have the next one. So it's the same line, but with the different chord at the beginning. And the last one we have a 1. Yeah, and some harmonic here, very good. Okay, what I'm going to change is that the first part is the rhythm, because it's also 1 chord and then some lines, and then 1 chord and some lines. For this kind of riff, I'd like to insert 1 more beat for the chord, so it's going to be bam, bam, bam. Okay, so I'm going to put 1 more chord on the 4, so it sounds like that, damn. So for here, I'm gonna insert 1 more chord. Yeah, but because I'm playing the chord here, it's difficult to do the slide. So I'll move the note to here, so it sounds like that. Yeah. Yeah. So you can hear the rhythm like bam, bam, and the next chord. Okay, I'm gonna insert the beat right here, because I don't want everybody to sound the same. So the first one should be bam, 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 bam. So the bass should be right here. So it's the second chord, and then move to 6. So there are many notes that you can like go to the 6. For example, you can go or low octave. But this one I'm going to insert 0 because it's easier, and then so it goes like, yeah, and then the next chord, the same thing. I'm gonna insert the same beat on the 4, so the 6, it's gonna be like that. So yeah, and the chord here, I like that. So it's the 1 chord, but it's the dominant 7. Yeah, really good. And then it's easy to play, so I think the design is very good. Oh, sorry. For the last note, instead of doing like holding a 12, I'm gonna change it to harmonic, because when you play a flat note, and jump to the first chord. It's difficult to connect those, but if you play as harmonic, it's easier. So it's best to change to harmonic as well, and then we have a repeat here. So I'm just copy the phrase here. Okay, we have what's that? So I think this phrase doesn't make sense at all, because when you play the 8 here and then do a hammer on right here and jump to 10, maybe I can change to do tapping here, so you can connect to note, or just move to the first string like that. Yeah, it's easier to play. And then here 5, 8. Also, it's difficult to drum like that. For me, this bar sounds like the rhythm is more important instead of the note. So instead of playing this note, I'm gonna change to some maybe and then change the 5 to the open string, and the 8 maybe I can do it something like that, or just tap on the 10, because it's easier to play the chord here. So it's gonna be something like, yeah, it's much easier to play like that. And then we can insert a ghost note here. So yep, yeah, it sounds more exciting as well. And then this, yeah, I like this one because he's playing the same note on different places. Yeah, I like that. So I like that. Then the next bar. Okay, so here is the last bar and going back to the first cycle. For me, I would like to make more changes, because if you're using the same chord all over again, it's gonna sound a bit boring. So instead of doing 1, maybe insert a 5 like that to make more changes. So instead of doing, maybe we can do, yeah. So it's gonna be and then like that. So and then go back to 1. Yeah, and then just repeat again. So just copy everything. Here to the end. And then for these 2 bar, because it's the second cycle, we're going to do more fill in right here. So I think we can keep this one, and then here we can add some fill in. So usually I don't like to add too much, so just 2 bits of 16 note I think is enough already. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so it's gonna be similar to this one. So for making fill-ins, I like to use the melody before, for example this one, because I think it sounds catchy. And then I'm gonna use this note to develop more note and then fit into the bar. So I'm gonna make 8 notes. So and then yeah, something like that. So and then yeah, and then just make it easier to play. Yeah, something like that, and then just repeat. That's all the changes I'm going to do for this one. So let's move on to the next one. okay. So it's clearly he knows his stuff, and then the riff is already very complicated, so the tab is right here. So for this riff, what I'm going to change is just based on my personal preference and habit. So for example, the first bar here, it just doesn't make sense to me because you have to travel that far from the chord to the 9 here. You can just move the chord right here, or just move the line to here. And I don't like to play the melody like this because it has no special sound texture, but it's harder to play because you have to tap and then pulling off back to the harmonic. And for me, I'm gonna make more texture to the notes. So for example, I'm going to move this note to the open string, and then so you can hear the notes raining to each other, right? Or even more. And then two harmonic like that. And then then just harmonic and harmonic. So it's easier and more texture there. And the chord I'm going to move. So for the next bar here, okay, I think the chord here you can just move to this voicing because it's easier to play instead of doing this. Yeah, and then also for the tap harmonic, you can hold this shape and then just do all the note without changing your hand. Yeah, and then the last 4 note is, I don't have 22 fret here, but it's yeah. So it sounds good and then it's easy to play. So I think this one is quite good. And then we have some harmonic here. Okay, do. For me, I will add the chord here, so the 4 chord. But it's difficult to play the chord and the harmonic together, so I will just change the note here. And then it's gonna sound like this. But it's still difficult to play, so maybe change something more. Maybe these 2 notes, we can move to a lower octave. So yeah, it's easier for me to play, and then the octave here. For me, I don't like to use octave on such high position because it sounds very thin. So instead of an octave, I will just place a chord. For example, this one is too high for my guitar, so it's just a normal major 7 voicing. So oh sorry, do Hammond like this. Yeah, something like that. And then so for here, I think it sounds interesting because of the chromatic here, dum dum boom boom, and then some ghost notes. So nothing much to change here. Also, it doesn't make sense to me because the way of playing the is difficult and it has no special sound texture, as I said before. So I'm not gonna play it like that. Maybe I just changed, or it just sounds very similar. Also, I don't like to use octave as the chord. So for this one, maybe I'll just make it 1 more note. Yeah, something like that. And then here also, and then jump to this one. It's difficult, so for me, I will use some octave displacement. So and jump to here, easier. Blah blah blah. So this one, some whammy bar effect here. It sounds cool, but for the first bit, maybe I'm gonna do because it's on the 3 chord, so doing like this maybe easier to get to the 15 and it sound more notes. Yeah, and then we have few in here, so the same thing. I don't like this one, but the first 3 beat, it sounds cool and it's kind of easy to play. But the last 3 note is just tricky and it doesn't really sound special to me. So maybe I'm gonna change to I will change to a lower octave. So yeah, it's easier to play and it sounds more. It has more texture. So and then move on to the next bar. It's easier, right? But as I said before, I don't like octave as a chord, so I will maybe add one more. Just hold the 9 here, and then also these 2 notes, I will change it to maybe something like that. So that's what I'm gonna change. But it's already a very complicated and good riff. So what I changed is just based on my personal preference. It doesn't mean the original is bad. So we are going to the next one here. Okay, I guess that's the repeat. So it's a very strange one because he plays a chord right here, the root. He plays the bass on the 4th beat, but then the second bar he has one on the 1st beat, and then this phrase supposed to be the 1st and 2nd beat, but on the next cycle it became the 3rd and the 4th. So it's like shift. I'm not sure if he's like doing on purpose or it's a mistake, because so here it sounds like another cycle, right? So I feel like this one should be a 2/4 and then go back to 4/4 like that, but I'm not sure if he's on purpose to shift the melody like that. So for me, I'm going to change to just add more chord. You see, it sounds pretty empty. So for example, just add the 4 chord here. So you can use this voicing or this voicing, but I think this one is easier, so I'm gonna use this one. And I'm not a big fan of tap harmonic, so for these 2, because it's difficult to play and it doesn't really sound very good alone, I'm gonna change to this one, maybe something like that, but on a high octave because I don't have enough fret. So it's gonna be and then something like that. Maybe some harmonic like that. Yeah. Sorry. And the next chord we have. So also only 2 bass notes. It sounds pretty empty, so just add the chord to it. Also, these 2, I don't like it. It's just me. I don't like tap harmonic. Maybe we can use octave like that. I'm gonna do it something like that. Bum, bum, and then this one. And yeah, and then we go back to the 4. Da, 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 da. For me, I'm just gonna ring all the notes together, because usually it sounds better. Yeah, and easy to play, like, right, and then also just insert more chord to it. And here we have instead of playing like that, I think it makes more sense because it's easier to play. So for the second part, because I'm not sure what's going on here, so I'm gonna change the first 4 bar. So if you like the way I change it, you can use this as reference and change the rest of it. So the next one is this one. Okay, it's like a thumping riff, right? So it's weird because for the note here, it sounds like in the key of A to me. But he's starting with an E, so it's a 5th. But usually we don't start with a 5th. So the first thing he can do is to change the 0 to 2, so to the 6. Something like that. And the time signature is interesting because he's 4, 4, and 3. But the rhythm is not as interesting because it's mainly in quarter note. So we can change some of note to triplet maybe. For example, this one, instead of 9 and then cross, we can do something like that, and also change some of the note in different position. For example, right, and then the 9 you can use the open string like that. So something like that. So I think it's gonna sound more interesting when you play fast. Something like that. So move on to the next one. So here's the riff. So for this one, I think it sounds very good. Something like that. It sounds very interesting, and he's using a lot of different techniques to make every note sounds more interesting. So I think there's nothing more I can change here. The only thing is that the tone, because he's using too much reverb, I think. Because for this kind of playing, if you use a drier tone, I think it's gonna sound much better. So let's move on to the next one. it sounds very good because he's adding some percussive element to it, something like that. It sounds very good. And then we have the tab here, so let's look at tab right here. So we have to clip it on the flat one. So yeah, these kind of techniques I really like it, to play the same note on different string. The first one I suggest is to mark all those grace notes as grace note instead of a real note like that. So it should be something like that. Yeah, and it's much easier to watch. And also here as well, because these are all just grace note. If you mark it like this, it's like really difficult to read. So instead of doing like that, I like to just mark it like this. And instead of using a eighth note and quarter note, I like to use a tight note like this. So it's easier to watch and easier to understand the rhythm. Yep, and then it's just the same. I think the sound is very good. It's just the writing of the tab you have to improve, because you can see it's red. It means the beat is wrong, either too many or too less. So here, so these are all just grace notes. So just make a grace note and then like that, and then your bar will become normal again. And here the same thing. I think it should be like this. And sorry. Yeah. And the last bar is also wrong again. Like that. So just remember, when you're marking the tab, you have to make sure every bar is correct. So I think this one, it sounds very good, and I don't want to change it at all, because you can see he's using the same rhythm here. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, keeping the same rhythm on every bar is gonna sound better. So that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this. If you want me to give comments or feedback on your video, remember to join my Discord. So see you next time. Bye.